in this module 21, we are going to learn about developmental task. So after completion of this module, you will be able to know about the developmental task and you to understand the use of knowledge of developmental task, and you also identify the harmful effects of developmental task. Okay, let's see what's the exact meaning of developmental task. So every culture expects the members to master certain essential skills and acquire certain appropriate behavior patterns at various ages during the lifespan. These tasks and skills behavior pattern are essential to period and social adjustment at those ages, and each culture group and expects its members acquiring this. For example, that all the children are expected to master the 3 R's. That means reading, writing, and counting. That is happen in their early childhood. So that having cast has labeled this developmental task. The developmental task is which arises at a period of lifespan of individual successful achievement of which leads to happiness and the success with the later tasks. And while the failures leads to unhappiness and difficulty with the later task. The developmental tasks are different for different developmental period of an individuals, namely the childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and middle age and old age. Some developmental tasks arise purely from the maturations. For example, learning to walk, and others arise to socioeconomic process and learning to read, and other few of many grow out the personal values and aspirations of individuals and choosing some vocations. It is the most case of developmental tasks arise from these forces working together. The school should help the students to deal with the task with the appropriate to their level of development. The ages at the which the social group expects its member to master some developmental task of that the age are called as critical ages. So during the such critical period, the maturational factors and predisposes the individuals to acquire these patterns of behavior which facilitates the adjustment to the society and external world. So as values undergoes the changes in society and some of the old accepted developmental tasks get eliminated and may replaced by the task of the relative and importance may get the lesson. Okay, let's see the uses of developmental tasks. So that the developmental tasks are the value of the individuals in enabling him to know what expected of him by the society and particular age. That the parent who are aware of such a developmental task may teach them to their children, so that the children may not experiences and failure and unhappiness in later. So that the developmental task show the individuals what lies ahead, what he will be expected to when the reaches the next. The stages of development and this will eliminate much of the difficulty and emotional stress in later. So, for example, if adolescents are aware of the problems and the tasks that is lies ahead, the good better prepared for them. So, if the parents and the teachers know the developmental task, then they can provide the necessary experiences and training to the children and ensure the children to behave as per the expectation of the society and lead to the successful of any child found to be lay behind the developmental task for that particular period of then it can be provided with the special educations or training. For example, we could often hear in our countrysides old ladies and grandmothers inquiring their relatives as your child completed 2 years of age, if he talking now, and this is done precisely to our purpose of to knowing the developmental trend of the child. So if 2 years old is not talking, then the points out to the necessity to referring the child to the doctor and procures the help of the speech therapist. Okay, so now see the harms due to the instance of developmental class. Okay, so in appropriate expectations, the developmental norms may not hold good in the case of late or slow developing children like retarded. So further showing disappointment when the particular behavior pattern does not show itself in a child's at the normally expected time may result in the feeling of inferiority and consequent of further retardations in the child. And among the developmental tasks, omitting a few earlier ones and attempting a development of next higher task in the children may prove the injurious for the proper development of the child. For examples, if in some schools in their over enthusiasm in middle standard without finishing their entire syllabus, mean that the class. So the start of teaching the syllabus of 12th standard, this is highly injurious to the improper intellectual development of children. Okay. So when an individual faces from the one of the developmental stage to the next higher one, so his unique experiences and the resulting of frustrations of sometimes and prove the harmful. For the example of if any age of 25 years old lady does not agree married to or determinants to remain unmarried, then the society talks ill of her, consider her suffering from the defects of or illness. So this is because of developmental norm in the society. For a 25-year girl, the girl is got married. So this is kind of a criticisms may lead to the conflicts and frustrations in the lady, and her life may be sorted. Okay, let me see the another videos related to the developmental.
Hello everybody, welcome to our class Passionate Learners. Today in this class we're gonna discuss a topic known as the Havighurst Developmental Theory. This is the part of Psychology of Learning and Development subject. This is from MEd syllabus. We have already learned different stages of human life. A human comes across different stages in his lifetime. So in B.Ed we have learnt about the Piaget stages of development. In M.Ed we are going to learn about the Havighurst developmental theory. So let us get into it. Havighurst developmental task. What is a developmental task according to Havighurst? We'll learn in this slide. Developmental task is a task which arises at certain period in life. This leads to success and happiness in one's life. If the task is not accomplished, it leads to unhappiness and delay in accomplishment of later tasks. According to Havighurst, a developmental task is a task which should be accomplished at a particular stage in the life. So if it is done at the correct age, then it leads to happiness. If the particular development is not done at the particular stage, it leads to unhappiness. This is what is the definition of developmental task. In short, skills that should be mastered at certain stage in the life should be done. If not, they lead to unhappiness. So the task which should be done at a particular time has to be done at that particular time only, which leads to happiness. If it doesn't happen at this particular time, if there is a delay in occurrence of that particular development, it leads to unhappiness. This is what Havighurst is trying to say here. And the different stages in this Havighurst development are infancy and early childhood, later childhood, adolescence, early adulthood, later adulthood, and finally the old age. So on what different kind of tasks this development depends upon is that the physical maturation, personal values, and society. The development across human life can be observed in these three different sources. Means the aspects on which we can find the development is on the physical maturation and the personal values and the society. We all know the physical maturation is related to body, like learning to walk, talk, control of urine, etc. And coming to the personal values, it is choosing an occupation, outlook for life, one's own philosophy. And then society. We all know society, how an individual behaves in the society, how an individual gets adjusted in the society. So this is what are the tasks which the development depends upon. So the first stage in this Havighurst developmental task is infancy and early childhood. which is from 0 to 5 years. What happens in this stage are a child learns to talk, take solid food, walk, urine, bowel control, learning sex differences. So all these things happens in infancy and early childhood stages. The next stage is late childhood, which is from 6 to 12 years. What happens here is learning physical tasks, games, developing moral values, good attitude, cooperation, reading, writing, independence, etc. The next stage is adolescence, which is from 13 to 19 years. What happens here? Accepting one's physique, developing good habits, balancing stress and storm, social acceptable behavior, emotional maturity, intellectual skills. So we all know that adolescence is a stage of stress and storm. A child should know how to manage this stress and storm and live peacefully and learn good moral and ethical behavior and learn few intellectual skills. All these things happens in adolescence. And the next stage is early adulthood, which is from 20 to 30 years. Here, what happens is that selecting a mate, learning to live with a partner, starting a family, rearing children, managing a home, starting an occupation. Everything related to settlement happens here. Settling with good job, settling with good salary, settling with good mate. All these things happens in the early adulthood. The next stage is late adulthood, which is from 31 to 60 years. What happens here is helping the teenage children to become happy and responsible adults, achieving social responsibility, adjusting to aging parents, accepting psychological changes. And the last stage is late maturity. So here the ability, the strength and the health, everything becomes less. So decreasing strength and health happens here, retirement and reduced income, death of spouse, establishing relations with one's own age group. These kind of things happen in late maturity. So this is the information about Habekus developmental task and all the stages which happen in the human life according to Habekus. Thank you so much for watching this video.
Thank you, viewers. Thank you for watching.